Nigeria's 2023 elections marred by vote manipulation. International Election Observation Mission says. Now the international observers on the 2023 presidential elections come out now with their final verdict and report on how the election was conducted in Nigeria. And the summary of it is that it was marred by vote manipulation and several other vices that obviously are not mentioned in their report. So let's see the main content of their report. The National Democratic Institute and International Republican Institute's joint International Election Observation Mission, IEOM, released its final report on the 2023 general elections in Nigeria on Tuesday. The mission, supported by the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, led by Dr. Joyce Banda, former president of the Malawi, monitored the February 25 presidential and National Assembly election and presented its preliminary report on February 27. The report criticized the conduct of the polls, saying inadequate communication and lack of transparency by the Independent National Electoral Commission about their cause and extent created confusion and eroded voters' trust in the process. The final 2023 election report sent to Daily Post on Tuesday by National Democratic Institute NDI Press Secretary Paulina Chavez Alonso gave a damning verdict, recalling the nationwide exercise saw the lowest turnout for national contest in Nigeria's modern democratic history, with only 27% of registered voters participating. Wow. It noted that while there were improvements in election administration, advances in result transparency increased. Advances in result transparency increased competitiveness in the presidential race, quality engagement of youth, and overall optimism generated by the enactment of the Electoral Act of 2022, the elections fell short of citizens' legitimate and reasonable expectation. That is the truth, because the Electoral Act raised people's hope and people felt it's going to be different this time around, but the actual election itself proved otherwise. The mission observed significant logistical, technological, and communications failures by Inec, divisive rhetoric by political parties, political violence, regional disparities in electoral integrity, declaring that instances of vote manipulation and marginalization of key populations marred the electoral process and disenfranchised voters. That is true. The report urges the new government, lawmakers, Inec, and political parties to show genuine and renewed dedication to improving electoral and democratic processes, fighting corruption, and providing Nigerian citizens with responsive and trusted institutions. Nigerians must undertake collective actions to combat disenchantment, address lingering political grievances, and restore faith in elections and democracy as a whole, the final report states. IEOM found that there is still space to confront electoral integrity challenges and build on the gains of recent reforms, but only through demonstrable political will, good faith, and committed and coordinated efforts among Nigerian stakeholders. That is true. The report includes key findings on the pre-election, election day, and post-election periods and offers practical recommendations for consideration by Nigerian stakeholders and partners to promote a resilient and inclusive democracy. The report is based on information gathered by the delegation from June 2022 to May 2023. The 40-person election day delegation observed the polls in 20 states, including the Federal Capital Territory. National Democratic Institute and International Republican Institute thanked the Nigerian people for the warm welcome that they accorded IEOM and commended the contributions of the more than 60 observers who participated in the pre-election, election day, and post-election teams. So this is the final report. Initially these people finished the election observation, and then they issued a preliminary report, and then they left, and then APC and Inec were like nothing serious. Even after we saw all the malpractice that took place, all the electoral violence that took place, especially in Lagos and in Port Harcourt, Rivers State. Okay, I know that preliminary report that was issued by the international observers at that time, that was on February 27, just 2 days after the election, was a diplomatic one, just like heads up, and to go back and prepare the full detail of the report. And now the report is out, and they've just posted it on Tuesday, June 13th, 2023, and it is obvious that Nigeria election of 2025 February was marred with violence, manipulations, voters rigging and intimidation, marginalization of minor tribes, and tribalistic and ethnic bigotry, and all of that happened. Right. In fact, the report came out with the actual thing that happened that day, and that is in line with all the observations that Nigerians made internally as well. And one of it is that the Igbos and some other non-Yorubas were not allowed to vote in Lagos, and that was very, very, very bad. Okay, even though on the presidential election day, Peter Obi won that state. In fact, they took it as a slap on their face, and then the next thing is that during the governorship election, they made sure that all non-Yorubas did not come out of their houses. That is how bad, or that was how bad it was with Lagos. In Rivers, under the watch of Governor Wike, the then governor of Rivers State, it was manipulation, it was violent, election. Everywhere was violence. Even when they started counting, they saw that Labour Party was ahead, they stopped the counting straight up. And then they started manipulating figures. Right in Lagos at Apapa, we saw how they were using TPEX. All over Nigeria, we saw violence. And apart from violence, we also saw how Inec disenfranchised a lot of people from the Igbo extraction. We saw people's voters card found in the forest by hunters at Nnewi. We also saw how bags of voters card were dumped in gutter at Oshodi in Lagos. How could we have done all of this? And all of this culminated into a very violent election with voters' intimidation and manipulation, and with rigging of the worst of its kind in the history of Nigeria and in the world politically. Okay? And at the end of the day, with all the grievances piled up, Inec still went ahead to declare Tinubu as winner without seeing all the votes coming in from all the polling units, all the wards across the country. Without admitting all the votes, they just unilaterally declared Tinubu winner. Okay, and if 7 days, 14 days, 21 days, even after the declaring Tinubu winner, they were still bringing in votes into the RF portal. Who does that? So what number did you use to declare Tinubu winner? Okay, so Tinubu became a president on a very fraudulent platform, and that is why no matter what he does, it won't go down well with everybody. Not everybody will accept it. So it was obvious that the election was not manipulated from end to end. And this report coming from the International Election Observation Mission has proven that the complaints ordinary Nigerians were putting up about the election were correct. So this is what has happened, and this seals it once and for all that the election was inconsistent, the election was fraudulent, and the election was marred by manipulations and violence, and ordinarily should have been repeated, should have been cancelled and conducted again. That is the truth. Unfortunately, we have fraudulent people in APC government, fraudulent people in Inec, fraudulent people everywhere, political and religious and tribal sycophants, and then at the end of the day, we're having a very fraudulent government being established, and that is the beginning of entrenchment of corruption, to a next level, okay, to the next level. So thank you for listening, and let's have your comment.